We often talk about motive on this channel, but sometimes people are genuinely in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught up in an overarching scheme, perhaps with political undertones, or even just the simple plan of wreaking as much damage as possible in as short a time as possible. And it would appear to be the latter that we are looking at today, as 3 people are killed just because they were there. This is the Canadian story of the Alaska highway spree killings from 2019, and this is Murder of Crows. The Alaska Highway, also known as the Alaskan Highway, Alaska Canadian Highway, or Alcan Highway, is a highway in North America which was constructed during World War II to connect the contiguous United States with Alaska, travelling through Canada. It begins at the junction with a few Canadian highways in Dawson Creek, British Columbia, and runs to Delta Junction, Alaska, via Whitehorse, Yukon. When it was completed in 1942, it was about 1,700 miles or 2,700 kilometers long. But in 2012 it was only 1,387 miles or 32 kilometers, but this is due to realignments of the highway over the years, which has rerouted and straightened many of its sections. The highway opened to the public in 1948. Once legendary for being a rough, challenging drive, the highway is now paved over its entire length. Its component highways are British Columbia Highway 97, Yukon Highway 1, and Alaska Route 2. An informal system of historic mileposts developed over the years to denote major stopping points. Delta Junction at the end of the highway makes reference to its location at historic milepost 1422. It's at this point that the Alaska Highway meets the Richardson Highway, which continues 96 miles or 155 kilometers to the city of Fairbanks. This is often regarded unofficially as the northwestern portion of the Alaska Highway, with Fairbanks situated at historic milepost 1520. But in 2019, this otherwise innocuous stretch of road became infamous for a very, very different reason. "23-year-old Lucas Fowler hailed from Sydney, Australia. At an age where many people were thinking about laying down roots for the future, he was backpacking across the world. A journey that, according to his plans, would take 2 years to complete. China Deese was also a seasoned traveller when the two crossed paths while exploring Croatia. A native of Charlotte, North Carolina, she had felt an instant attraction to the sandy-haired blonde outdoorsman. It was apparent to the couple themselves, and indeed everyone around them, that they were made for each other. In the summer of 2019, Lucas was working as a ranch hand in rural British Columbia. China, who had remained behind in the United States, joined him there in July for a much needed and much looked forward to holiday. The couple set out in their blue 1986 Chevy van, which acted as their travelling home away from home, with the intention of spending the next couple of weeks exploring the scenic beauty of British Columbia. Since China was due back in the United States on July the 31st, they were determined to make every minute of their time together count. Now, the timeline of the last days of their young lives is a little bit woolly and piecemeal, but investigators were able to confirm that they were alive and well on July the 13th, as evidenced by CCTV footage obtained from a petrol station in Fort Nelson, British Columbia. The recorded images showed the pair sharing a playful embrace as they fueled up the van. 36 hours later, they were found shot to death in a ditch along the Alaska Highway. At 3:20 p.m. on July the 14th, Curtis Broughton, a mechanic by trade who was out for a drive with his wife, spotted Lucas and China sitting beside a blue van, which appeared to be out of commission. When he stopped and offered to lend a hand, Lucas assured him that no help would be necessary. He explained that the engine had flooded, and they were simply waiting for the excess fuel to evaporate before continuing on their way. True to form for the easygoing couple, rather than being put out by this unexpected delay, the couple were enjoying a roadside picnic lunch as if they didn't have a care in the world. Now, after learning that everything was under control and there was no need for any further help, Broughton and his wife wished the pair luck and drove on their way. Investigators believe that China and Lucas were killed later that very afternoon. At 7 o'clock the following morning, a highway maintenance worker found two bodies lying a few feet apart in a ravine 12 miles from Lloyd Hot Springs, a popular resort area frequented by tourists. It was apparent to absolutely anyone that the victims had been shot multiple times. The van was discovered nearby with one of the back windows shot out and the passenger door standing wide open. Autopsies revealed that the victims, who were quickly identified as Lucas Fowler and China Deese, had been shot from behind. Bullet casings found at the scene proved to be from an SKS semi-automatic assault rifle, which accounted for the incredible amount of overkill that had been inflicted upon the victims. 4 days later, the body of 64-year-old university professor Leonard Dick was discovered 300 miles south in the area of Dease Lake, British Columbia. He too had been the victim of murder. A spent SKS cartridge was found nearby. Ballistics experts would subsequently confirm that Lucas, China, and Leonard had all been shot by the same weapon. Parked in close proximity to Leonard's body was the burned out shell of an older model Dodge Ram. And upon checking motor vehicle records, it was revealed that the truck was registered to a 19-year-old named Cam MacLeod. When his parents were contacted about the alarming find, they told detectives that their son and his best friend, 18-year-old Briar Schmegelski, had set out for the Yukon Territory on July the 12th in the hopes of finding employment. They hadn't heard from him since. Concerned that the teenagers may have met the same fate as the 3 already known victims, investigators put everything they had into finding them. In the following days, as they learned more about MacLeod and Schmegelski, authorities would go from looking at the pair as potential victims to looking at them as cold-blooded killers. After perusing their social media accounts, detectives saw the teenagers in a completely different way, sharing a radical outlook on the world that had sent them down a rabbit hole of glorified violence and extremist views. It was glaringly obvious that the pair were both time bombs waiting to go off. Friends of Schmegelski told investigators that he had openly contemplated going on a killing spree, culminating with him taking his own life. Since he had always been a little bit out there, they hadn't taken his words seriously. Putting 2 and 2 together, detectives believed that the teens had taken off in Leonard Dick's Toyota RAV4 SUV after the murder. The vehicle was later found smouldering almost 2,000 miles away in Manitoba. Acting under the assumption that MacLeod and Schmegelski were armed and extremely dangerous, the RCMP launched what would prove to be the largest manhunt in the country's history. Even though everyone was looking for them, the pair managed to evade capture again and again. Whether through design or dumb luck, we will never know. Tips from the public poured in as the fugitives were spotted at various petrol stations throughout Canada. Unfortunately, police were always just that tiny bit too late in catching the elusive pair. On July the 22nd, MacLeod and Schmegelski were stopped at a sobriety checkpoint. When no connection was made between them and the teenage murder suspects, They managed to avoid capture yet again by the skin of their teeth.
Tonight, Canadian police converging on a small town. Crews setting up checkpoints as heavily armed officers search nearby woods, searching door to door for two teens turned murder suspects.
It is possible that someone may not have been aware of who they were providing assistance to.
Cam McLeod and Briar Smigelski on the run for 2 weeks. Smigelski's father now fears his son will end his life in a blaze of glory.
No, he's going to be dead today or tomorrow. I know that.
Police believe the childhood friends killed 3, including American China Deese, on a road trip with Australian boyfriend Lucas Fowler. Both shot to death outside their broken-down van. Police then found the body of Professor Leonard Dick near a burned-up pickup truck the teens had been driving. They weren't spotted again until more than 1,200 miles away. The next day, another burned vehicle, more than 800 miles east, near the town of Gillam in northern Manitoba. A town in fear, with alleged killers on the loose. Morgan Chesky, NBC.
Over a week later, on August the 2nd, a tour guide in Gillam, Manitoba, reported seeing a sleeping bag lying near the Nelson River. A search of the area turned up an array of items belonging to McLeod and Smigelski. On August the 7th, the bodies of 2 young males were discovered in a heavily wooded area of Manitoba. Evidence found at the scene suggested that the pair had died from self-inflicted gunshot wounds. 5 days later, the bodies were confirmed to be those of Cam McLeod and his best friend since childhood, Briar Smigelski.
After an extensive manhunt in Canada are those of Briar Smigelski and Cam McLeod. Their deaths said to be suicide by gunfire. For the families of Australian Lucas Fowler and his American girlfriend China Deese, alleged to have been murdered by the pair, there are still many unanswered questions. Their grief still very raw. China's brother Stetson joins us now from New Orleans in the US. Stetson, good morning to you. Difficult news for you to hear this morning. Police just releasing the results of the autopsies. What is your reaction to the news, with the fact that you've had very little information till now?
GPS signal lost.
I have not exactly heard all the results on the autopsies. I know that they were shot, so now we don't know if they were shot by themselves or by somebody else, or they shot each other.
Police have confirmed that it was death by suicide as a result of the autopsy, so that has been confirmation just through from Canadian police this morning.
Suicide.
That's correct.
Yeah, and you know, there could be more involved. There could be accomplices. But our family and a lot of us do believe they were the real suspects of the crime.
And how are you and your family coping? Because you've talked in the past about China and the person that she was. Give us some insight into how you will remember your sister.
I will remember her as an adventurer. I was originally the adventurer in the family. And then she took after me, but she was more adventurous than I was. She worked all over the globe, you know, worked and traveled. I worked all over the country. So I will remember her as just a very loving person. Her and Lucas were very similar people. They were, you know, just perfectly matched for each other. And they were very nice. And sources have said that it was Lucas's first girlfriend, and I really believe Lucas was China's first true boyfriend, long-term boyfriend. So they were kind of just perfect for each other, both very nice. So it's kind of hard to digest, you know, what all happened to such nice people.
And how difficult is it for you and your family realising that with so much uncertainty and so little information about their crimes and the fact that they are now dead, that you may never have any real answers about why your sister was killed?
Yeah, we do not know why, and more may be discovered, but I don't think we're ever going to truly know why. So it's discomforting because there's anybody, even some of the worst people in this world, if they met China and Lucas, the last thing they would want to do is kill them. You know, if they just stopped and had a conversation with them. And it's just hard to accept that such good people can be killed for whatever reason.
There was quite a moving memorial service and a celebration, really, of the life of Lucas here in Australia, in Sydney, a number of weeks ago. How are you actually celebrating China's life? Have you had a service as such? And in terms of your family, how are you rallying together?
We had a memorial for China's life celebration, and we all spoke at it. All the siblings spoke to the crowd about China and a lot of our memories and stuff like that. It's kind of like a more private event than the one that happened in Australia. But it was, you know, we had at least 500 people. You know, I made a documentary on the investigation. I did a tribute on a YouTube channel. You know, my brother's done a lot of interviews. My mom's done different things. Everybody kind of does their own thing. Everybody grieves differently. But it is really hard to accept.
Well, it is still so raw. Now, we know that the father of Rhys Evans has spoken out. He issued an apology of sorts. Is that something that was welcome?
My sister posted a public post on her Facebook kind of to everybody for him to read. And I remember she said, you know, we forgive him. We have mercy that he raised a son that, you know, potentially killed China and Lucas and Winter Dyke. So, but he seems to be going for a little bit of fame and stuff like that. We're not really sure what is, you know, I mean, he's getting things off his chest, writing a book, going on 60 Minutes, so that's good. So, you know, I don't have anything against him. You know, people's kids can turn out anyway, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about the kids you raise. Sometimes they're going to turn out bad no matter what, so you can't always blame the parents.
Videotapes discovered near the bodies contained confessions to the murder of China Deese, Lucas Fowler and Leonard Dick. The killers offered no explanation for their actions and no apologies.
Videos, the suspects took responsibility for all three murders. They indicated no remorse for their actions, as well as their intentions to potentially kill others. They also described their intent to commit suicide and a wish to be cremated. These videos do not contain any information regarding the motive behind their actions, nor do they provide specifics regarding the murders.
While they had taken it upon themselves to tie up loose ends, they showed no remorse for taking the lives of three complete strangers who had the misfortune of encountering them along the Alaska Highway. the perpetrators recorded admissions of guilt, along with knowledge that Cam MacLeod had been the legal owner of an SKS semi-automatic assault rifle, allowed authorities to peg them as the killers, thus bringing the investigation to a close. Today, a collection of mementos from both the United States and Australia mark the area where China and Lucas' bodies were discovered. Travellers from far and wide routinely stop to pay their respects to the young couple they did not know in life but honoured in death. Even the most road-weary long-haul truckers are said to remove their hats as they pass by, in reverence to the lives that were lost during the killing spree of 2019.
We're so happy that Lucas and China found each other and had such a great time travelling together, meeting new friends, and just milking every last drop of fun out of life. They laughed and loved and touched the hearts of everyone they met. Lucas lived a life that many of us envied. He didn't just dream of travelling, he worked and saved and made it happen. He lived off the smell of an oily rag to get to places we've never heard of, and along the way forged many friendships. He met the love of his life and was at his happiest. We so look forward to having China in our family. Her mother tells us that China wanted their kids to have an Aussie accent.
China Deese, Lucas Fowler and Leonard Dick had shared a love of the outdoors and all its wonders that few could equal. In the end, it was their desire to bask in the glories of the open road that put them on a collision course with a pair of cock-womble wank badgers. Yes, I doubled it up. Faced with a threat that they hadn't seen coming, their journeys had ended far too soon. In the aftermath of the deaths of Lucas and China, one trucker was moved enough to construct a tribute to the young people senselessly killed. Truck driver Ed Grennan wanted to help with a proper tribute for the pair of young tourists, so he set up a memorial in the exact location they were found, with an Australian flag for Mr. Fowler and an American flag for Ms. Deese. A floral cross was also placed on the ground to pay tribute to the young pair. Grennan was reported as saying that he could understand to an extent what the couple's families must be going through, having lost a child himself, with him quoted as saying, "I lost a kid myself, and I know. Everybody says they know, but I know." The tribute sparked emotional reactions for truck drivers on the highway, with Grennan saying one even told him he broke down and cried upon seeing the cross and the flags. He said he hopes the families understand that Alaska highway truckers are thinking of the young couple. In a statement, the Dick family said at the time, "It is truly heartbroken by the sudden and tragic loss. He was a loving husband and father. His death has created unthinkable grief, and we are struggling to understand what has happened." Dick was listed on the University of British Columbia website as a sessional lecturer in botany. In a written statement, Sean Graham, the head of the university's botany department, wrote that the UBC community is shocked and saddened by this news. We offer our deepest condolences to Mr. Dick's family, friends, and his colleagues at the university. Robert D. Reed, a professor emeritus of botany at UBC, was friends with Dick for over 20 years. He taught Dick as an undergraduate student, a master's student, and worked with him on his PhD at UBC. De Reed said Dick was retired and is survived by his wife and 2 sons. He said he was passionate about his research, which focused on seaweed and how it survived when exposed to different environmental factors. He said he was a hard worker, a person who liked to discuss some of the more esoteric aspects of biology, someone who liked to think deeply about biological problems. He also said that Dick loved to be in nature and go camping, sometimes with family and sometimes alone. I wasn't surprised in the sense that he was up where he was found, because I know he liked to take those kinds of trips to northern British Columbia. I think it's horrible. I don't know what to say. So 3 people of value were killed for nothing other than they were where they were when a couple of disenfranchised young people crossed their paths and believed they had the right to end their lives. It is an unimaginable and above all senseless tragedy that created ripple effects all over the globe. This episode is dedicated to the 3 victims of this pointless endeavour. And I send love to all of those still trying to process the grief from this horrible series of events. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. Please leave a comment on this tragic case and consider subscribing if you haven't yet. But with that said, I'm Steve. Samson is doing his personal housekeeping just down there. So in his absence, I would just say, I'm Steve, and I'll see you when I see you.